Since the dawn of your time, there were stories passed down from parent to child. Some were of action, of strength, and of love, whilst others were more gentle and mild. I travelled light years just to hear them, and capture them here in my book. And now that you found me up here on this rock, maybe you'll come take a look. For the sun is now setting to twilight, and soon it will be time to rest. But before then, let's hear this story. Sit and listen, my friend. Be my guest.
I really loved being a child because my parents, they lived by a zoo. In the mornings, I'd hear all the lions roar and the call of the elephants too. My mum would work with the penguins, and my dad used to work with the apes. And they told me they did everything that they could to keep all those animals safe. We used to walk through the gardens, and I'd marvel at all that I saw. But there was one thing I never quite understood. Why was there not one dinosaur? I'd search through the zoo every day, trying my hardest to find a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a Triceratops. I had dinosaurs stuck on my mind. My parents told me I was silly, that dinosaurs had long since died out. But I wanted so much for this not to be true, that we'd argue, and then I'd storm out. But then, one evening I noticed a gate that I'd never seen, and before it there stood a zookeeper, wearing gloves and blue dungarees. I asked him what was beyond it, and he told me that he couldn't say, that he wasn't allowed to let anyone through, at least not till the end of the day. So when the zoo was all quiet, and the guests had long since gone home, I stood by myself in front of the gate, quickly realised I wasn't alone. The zookeeper slowly walked over. In his hands, he played with his keys. He placed one of them inside the gate's lock. When it opened, I felt a warm breeze. "Before we go in, I have something to say," the zookeeper whispered to me. "You can't tell other kids about this place, no matter what you might say." I nodded and walked through the gate, and instantly I was in awe as a Brachiosaurus came lumbering by, each step gently shaking the floor. "What is this place?" I then asked him. "And why must you hide it away?" "These are dinosaurs, kid," the zookeeper said. "They've already had their day." I looked out then to the fields to see them all walking in herds. There were stegosaurus and iguanodons and pteranodons flying like birds. "Come take a look," the zookeeper said, "but be sure to stay very close. There are dinosaurs here that aren't quite as safe, and they'll eat us more quickly than most." "Why is this place even here?" I asked as we walked through the grass. My parents told me that they'd long since died out, And the zookeeper turned with a laugh. "Don't worry about that just now," he said as he looked to the sky. "Consider instead how to keep them all safe. Think about how more than why." We came to the edge of a forest, and I wanted to ask something more. But before I could get out my question, from the trees came an almighty roar. The zookeeper stopped in his tracks, told me to hold still and wait, and the floor began to quake underfoot as I asked, "Should we run for the gate?" But the zookeeper quietly whispered, "No, kid, I think we're too late." He lifted me onto his shoulders and carried me up to a tree. Said, "Climb, kid, climb," as I reached for a branch, and he said he'd be right behind me. I struggled to get any higher, but managed to hide in the leaves. Then all of a sudden, I felt something near, and I froze. Didn't dare even breathe. One eye was looking right at me. Its breath was warm on my skin. A Tyrannosaurus Rex with a mouthful of teeth stood watching with a huge hungry grin. I was sure then that I was done for, and I closed my eyes real tight. And then came a noise from deep in the trees, and I thought that I might be all right. A jeep bolted out from the clearing, honking its horn nice and loud. And the dinosaur turned round to chase it as I quickly jumped down to the ground. I saw the zookeeper driving. He was shouting, "Get to the gate!" And I ran through the trees on weak, shaky legs, kept going, didn't dare stop to wait. The dinosaurs scattered around me. I could see the gate up ahead. Then suddenly I felt the ground shaking again, and I turned with a look of pure dread. The T-Rex was right on my tail, the jeep only inches before, and it pulled up right alongside me, and I quickly leapt in through the door, just as the dinosaur lunged and snapped with its almighty jaw. The zookeeper revved up the engine, and we pulled very quickly away. And we flew through the gate as it closed at our backs, and I froze, didn't know what to say. Then the zookeeper broke the silence and said, "Enough excitement for me for one day." I climbed from the jeep and I asked him why no one could know of this place. And he said that people might hurt it, so he'd hid it away just in case. He looked at the rest of the zoo, then nodded at me with a wink, said, "The animals here need your help even more to save them from going extinct. See, we humans often don't realise the impact we have on our Earth. We litter the oceans and cut down the trees and forget what these animals are worth. We need to all try a lot harder to realise our actions have costs. And if we don't at least try to change our ways, all that's good in this world could be lost." I still don't know if I dreamt that day or whether that place was real. I never saw the zookeeper again or told anyone of our ordeal. I think often about what he told me, and when I grew up I knew that I'd always do my part for our world, and I hope that the same thing you'll do.